This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. I think this is relatable for most of us. Think about it for a second. Have you lost you? As life has gone on, have you lost what we would call our identity? You're taking care of others. You're not really taking care of your needs in terms of self-care, even going for a walk. And then maybe get to a point where you're like, who am I? What do I love? I've lost my joy, my passion. Now look at that. When it's somebody who's been through an abusive relationship, like narcissism, it's a challenge in either way you look at it, where you get to that point, well, how do I find me again? She helps people with this all the time, coaching them to find these epiphanies, to find themselves again. Her practice is called Soulfully Wild Healing. She's our professional of the year. Sherry Canino is back with us. How you doing today?
I'm well. How are you, Steve? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Learned a lot about this thing called narcissism, abusive relationships. What we're going to talk about today certainly plays into that, but also you might get to a point in your life where you're like, who am I? What do I stand for? What do I love? What's my passion? I feel like a robot on a treadmill, just doing my day, rinse and repeat. Did you find, and you've revealed that you've been in relationships that did not support you, we'll just put it that way, some pretty heavy stuff. Did you find you were lost? You lost you?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever knew me, because I kind of had been in that type of relationship my whole life. Um, you know, f- since the time, I was in college. So absolutely. And I agree with you. People have children, have families, and sometimes they wake up one day and they're like, whoa, who am I? The kids are grown and everybody change, we all change. It's just normal life. You're not who you are at 30 that you were at 20 or at 40 or 50. But being in a narcissistic abusive relationship, you become a lot like the narcissist, unfortunately.
Mm.
Professor Sam Vaknin always says, mental illness is contagious. And it's not that you're going to become a narcissist and stay a narcissist, but you have their introject in you after being in these relationships for a real long time. Or, I mean, it happens quickly. So I wouldn't even say it has to be a long time, but the longer you stay or the more relationships you're in, the
Mm.
harder it is to find yourself again. Absolutely.
I got this feeling of somebody being in a relationship like that where they've been poisoned. They've been poisoned, and they had to get the poison out. Would you say it kind of feels that way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
1,000%. I think, so what really ends up happening is when you are in these relationships, the narcissist is projecting everything onto you that they're feeling. So they're trying to basically get rid of the shame, the guilt, the pain, everything that they're feeling. They're putting it onto you so that they can feel better. So now you're carrying, imagine if you like had a backpack on, right? And every time, somebody else was like carrying these things, and every time you turn around, they were like sticking another thing in your backpack, and you didn't really know it was happening because it's behind you, and you're starting to feel the weight of it, but you're not really like, you're not understanding, like, why is it all of a sudden I'm getting so heavy and I'm being weighted down and weighted down? And then you leave the relationship and you wake up one morning and you're like, holy cow, I have all this weight on me. Where did it come from? And you believe that it's yours. Um, and you have to slowly unpack the fact that it's not. You have impaired reality testing. You don't, a lot of times, for lack of better words, um, survivors get out of these relationships and they kind of run wild, if you will. They might like turn to drugs or alcohol or, just promiscuous, do things that they
Mm.
normally would not do.
Is it almost like the feeling of the I didn't mean this in a loving way. The animal came out of the cage. Like it just, I need to feel life or something, to-
I don't think that us as survivors are doing it because it like feels fun. I think we end up doing it because we feel like ick. We don't know what's wrong with us.
Wow.
And we're trying to really mask or cope with that feeling that just doesn't feel like us.
I guess it's a lot of processing comes from
Mm.
this, when you finally stepped out of the relationship, or let's say you just had some clarity, you're still in the relationship. Now you have some things to get done,
Yeah.
move on. Not easy. Um, would that happen for you? Did you have that epiphany? Like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Who am I? Where am I?
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
it almost like an overnight thing?
So I don't know if it's an overnight thing, but so a couple of summers ago was kind of when my son and I both had been in narcissistic abusive relationships. And I call it our summer that we were just running wild. We were partying all the time. I mean, we were doing like I was working and doing what I had to do during the day. I'm a farm or whatever. But we would get to 5 o'clock and we were like, we're going out every night, over drinking, partying, you know, hanging out with not probably the best kind of people and, you know, gambling, just, running wild. And I am
But
not
you know
that
what?
me.
No excuse is ever needed for any of that, because I look at that as escapism. You were escaping from it. This was your diversion from it.
Yeah, coping. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neither of us knew what was going on. We were just like, you know, I don't want to look at this. We don't want to feel this. Like it's too much. It's a lot. Professor Sam Vaknin actually always says, like, don't, for people who have been in narcissistic abusive relationships, don't go jumping into being with a therapist because they will re-traumatize you. You either need to really find a narcissistic abusive coach that knows what they're talking about
Right.
and knows how to help you so you can get to that point. Otherwise, you're just going to get re-traumatized and you're going to be stuck in a loop of
Mm.
just the same thing over and over again, unfortunately.
You
It's
know,
not really oh, go ahead. Sorry.
that's how I view it, where you're just kind of buying time. You're just, almost my picture here is you're in this abusive relationship and you're just circling around. It's a very small circle, just circling around like a plane waiting to land.
Hamster
Now,
wheel.
yeah. And then when you gravitate towards some distractions, like you just said, it's just a bigger wheel, but you're just going around. You haven't gotten off it yet.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And when you all of a sudden decide like what's going on, I can't be doing this or whatever, you crash. You crash in a sense. And all the emotions just come flooding in and yeah, you don't know who you are. I mean, that has never been my personality, like ever. It's just not me. And I'm not saying I don't like to go out and have a good time, but night after night after night after, no, that's not,
Yeah.
excessive, that you're doing. No.
Mm.
Total coping mechanisms.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's why people gravitate toward things, activities, substances, all of that.
Mhm.
And it's especially in this situation, it's abuse. It's understandable,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Well, and also, so with narcissistic abuse, when you're in these relationships, you're getting the chaos, right? You're getting the chaos and you're getting the highs and the lows. Well, what do you think gambling is? That's exactly, that's the same thing. So you're gravitating towards what's not there anymore, too. And
Hmm.
same with like over drinking, you get a little bit of a buzz and you're like, oh, I'm feeling good. And then you over drink, and then the next morning you're feeling like garbage. So you're doing the same. You're doing exactly, it's just a different, you're abusing yourself, really.
Yeah. And I would have to I would have to think that you know that you're doing it, but you're okay with it just because it's a diversion. I'm not home dealing with that. You know what I mean?
You know you're doing it, but you really don't understand why you're doing it. And you
Okay.
don't understand why you're gravitating towards something of that nature. Um, I think for me, like, so when my son left and went back home, I was alone. And like those coping mechanisms no longer they weren't working because, we're like a little, tag team there doing our thing. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, this is not any fun alone, and then you're left with the emotions and like, oh my God, I was crying mess. Are you kidding me? I was a mess.
Hmm. And you know what? There is some good in being alone, but
Mm,
it's also I have to believe you were alone all along,
yep.
the feeling of, and then now you're really alone. If
Yep.
if it wasn't the abusive situation, I think I shared with you on a men's group, and even last night we had one of the men talking about, his challenges, and he's pretty strong-willed. And some of us looked at him and said, "Have you ever sat in quiet?" And he's like, "No, you really need to do that." And just listen
Yeah.
to what's in your mind and interpret and think. We gave examples of, driving to the beach and just sitting there for an hour, and it's like, oh, you drive away with, I got some clarity now on that. So there's the good and the alone, but when you have been alone the entire time, but in a relationship that didn't support, I guess it weighs even more. And then you start judging yourself, and once again, it goes back to, how did I get here? How did I get here?
Yeah. It's funny. I mean, you're always going to find when you leave a narcissistic abusive relationship, you're going to find some type of coping mechanism. And what happened to me, it really hit hard because so with my son being gone, like I stopped doing those kinds of things, but I am a total workaholic, right? So I have a farm and, you know, it would be not uncommon for me to be like, oh, I don't have enough work to do. Let me get more chickens or ducks or buy another horse. I'll throw myself into something that I'm going to be doing. And my energy worker at the time was like, so I had an accident and I broke 4 ribs. And guess what? I couldn't do anything.
Anything? Hmm.
And I had to have help, and I was crawling out of my skin. Oh, Lord. I mean, I had still been, I had still been working with my spiritual mentor, my energy worker and stuff, and working through things, but I was still falling back on my crutch of my coping mechanism, and that was gone.
Mm.
Talk about ripping the band-aid off. You might as well have been like, I had stitches and it just ripped the stitches open because there was like, you got to do it now, girl.
Mm.
Mm,
This is going to be a tough question to ask and a tougher one to answer. But I think if you've been very transparent, so I'm gonna throw it there because I believe we learn from everybody's stories. When did you feel that you hit rock bottom in all of this?
well, I think I mean, that was probably right before my rock bottom because I was I was a complete mess. I was crawling out of my skin. And I just remember week after week just getting on Zoom calls with my energy worker and just like crying and screaming. But the rock bottom was when I was arrested. And
You had
I
revealed that.
just, yeah, and I just was like, the big thing for me, see, I think growing up in abuse, I can take, I could take so much. Like, even out an example of having the broken ribs. I went 2 days and I did all my farm chores, lifting 5 gallon buckets, cleaned horse stall before I even went to the doctors to see what actually happened. I fell getting on my horse and the mounting block tipped. I fell right on that. So, I didn't hear anything
Was
crack.
this when you had the broken ribs and then you got on the horse? Or that's this, because I remember you,
No, before.
okay. Gotcha.
You know what? I fell. I didn't know I broke 4 ribs. And I got back up at that mounting block and got back on my horse anyways. And I didn't have any saddle on, and that's the reason why I fell, because I didn't have anything to grab a hold of. It wasn't
Mm.
the horse's fault. He was standing there. He just was like, "What's wrong with you?" But you know, I I I could take a lot of pain. The rock bottom was when I got arrested because I had nobody here to take care of my animals, and my animals were everything to me.
Mm.
And I was like, what am I going to do? And I was like, I could never, ever, ever let this happen again. I would never be in this position again, like ever.
When you talk about your animals, and this is coming from me and my understanding and my connection with mine, did you feel like they were now your friends?
Oh, yeah,
I get, no,
1000%.
yeah.
Yeah. My gelding, he's a Spanish Andalusian. He's gray, but I mean, as they get older, they become white. He's without a doubt, he saved my life. And he taught me more about healing and trust. Like horses don't just trust. I had to earn his trust. And he and I are like this now. And um, yeah, I don't, I imagine probably a lot more things would have happened to me if I didn't have my animals. But it's super common for people getting out of narcissistic abusive relationships to no longer even want to be around people. And they will gravitate towards, if they don't have animals, they usually end up getting one.
Mm. So the horses, I hear, are so amazingly intelligent, much more than the average person realizes. And also, they're intuitive. They can read your energy. They know what's going on. And
Mhm.
we're mentioning horses. I'm going to share this like really quick. I went away for a few days, almost a month ago. Caribbean, went by myself, just needed to relax, reflect, read. And in a field next to where I was staying, there was a horse tied up. Just not cool. Not great conditions. I understand that the horse was there because they do horse tours and they didn't need him today. And it was like every day, he's in a field in the sun with a rope on him. So I would go over there and I would feed him. And I would give him whatever I had. I gave him some lettuce. I gave him some bananas, some strawberries. I'd find him grass. I'd bring him I went in the closet of where I was staying, found a big bucket, and filled it up with water. I would go there and I would look in his eye and I could tell that he knew I had him and he was reading me too. And then one time I went there and he had wrapped around this piece of concrete that had rebarb coming out of it to the point where he couldn't even move his head to eat. Like it was like, and I'm like, I'm not having that. I had sandals on. I was getting eaten by fire ants. I said, I don't even care. I'm getting you out of here. And it's just a lot of work getting them out of there. But I felt a connection. He was my
You're gonna
buddy.
make me cry.
Made,
I
I'm not gonna
know.
lie, made me cry. He was my
Yeah.
buddy. I would go out, and sometimes I had to hike up a hill to get to him, but I
Oh.
could see him from where the property was at. But the point is, animals really understand. They read
Mm.
us, they pick up on the energy, they know, you know. And a
Yeah.
horse, I always heard that horses got more going on than we give him credit for. And I experienced that just even looking at him and just, feeling what he was thinking. And he was
Hmm.
feeling what I was thinking. And, I had a lot of thoughts going on there. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's why I asked you that they became,
That's so special.
I'll
Oh,
never forget it.
that's beautiful.
In fact, I'm going to book it again in another couple of months and go back there. It was so inexpensive and so
Yeah.
valuable. And why
Yeah.
I don't want to see that horse again in that field. I want to see him. I just want to say hi. Yeah.
Bring him back.
If I
I'll
could,
take him.
if I could put him in my luggage and get him on a plane somehow, I definitely would because just that wonderful animals. Plus, oh,
Yeah. Well,
mm.
so horses are prey animals. And what people don't understand about that is that their first inclination, they don't have a frontal lobe like we do. So when people are like, oh, the horse is just being stubborn, the horse is just, no,
No.
it's actually not. Their first thought is, I'm going to die. It's fear. It's fear that it's not like fear I'm going to get hurt. It's fear I'm going to die.
Hmm.
Safety is their number one
Yeah.
thing that they care about.
Yep. Yep.
And
Totally got
so
you.
they don't just trust you. They don't just trust you. You have to earn their trust. So when you earn their trust, I mean, that was my most valuable lesson with my horses because I always gave away my trust so easily and I had no
Oh,
boundaries.
oh, I'm right there with you. My motto, my mantra in the last number of years on a journey, love everyone, trust few. Wish I didn't have to say that, but I do based on my experience almost daily.
Yeah.
Love, and do the right thing for all, not just do the right thing for yourself, because that's self-serving. Yeah, I did, what was supposed to be done. Yeah, you benefited for the greater good. By the way, the safe thing in animals, 100% right. I have two cats along with a dog. I just read that cats, when they sleep, will lay on their left side because something about the right brain is the safety portion and the left eye is connected to the right brain. They can see you and react like a millisecond faster by sleeping on their left side to keep them safe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's stuff you learn. Like
That's
so now I
sweet.
watch my cats. Oh, he's on the left side again. Oh, all right. He's checking me out, make sure I'm not gonna
Right.
bother him. Yeah.
Right. Well, but see, so like cats would be predators, because they hunt. Um, but I love to see like my horses, they interact with the cat. This gelding of mine, he is such a goofball. And he will play with the cats. Like
Hmm.
he starts puts his big old Spanish head down to him. It's like giant, and the kittens are like this big. And he wants to play with them, and the cats will. They roll up. It's like the animal world, they really do get along and they respect each other. And it's like they trust because they know, like the cats, of course, my gelding could, this giant horse could harm this tiny little kitten, but the cat's not afraid, and
Hmm.
he's not afraid of the cat. And they just play together, and it's
Yeah.
hysterical, but it's so beautiful, though, too, right? Like, what a lesson. Like, if we as humans could be more like animals,
Amen to
we'd be
that.
all right. We'd be
Yeah.
all right.
And I'm sorry, but cats get a bad rap if you say, cats are mean, they're grouchy, they're finicky. You haven't met the right cat. Like mine is a dog. I come in, I walk through the door, he jumps up on the counter with his paws out. I want to hug you, and he's going like, I want to kiss you. I'm not even kidding. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I believe it.
It's almost a little too much sometimes. I was like, I just got to go to the bathroom. I just walked in, and then he starts drooling because he's so happy and like. They're the best though. And
I have a bunch of barn cats, and they're all the same way. None of them are grouchy. None of
no,
them.
no, no.
Maybe to each other, maybe not to me.
Thank heaven they're there, because they're part of our healing no matter what we go through.
Yep,
How do we
absolutely.
connect with you if somebody is looking for some support, some understanding, even just to start a coaching conversation? What do we do?
So there's a form they can fill out on my website, which is soulfullywild.com. And then, they put their email and everything, but I always reach out via cell phone. I always send a text or I call. So it's not like you're sitting there waiting for a 3-day email from me. So soulfullywild.com.
I love that name, and that has more meaning now that we talk about animals, doesn't it? Right?
Yep.
Sherry, thank you so much for today. And again, I always say your
you.
transparency, that takes a lot of courage to share some of those things with others.
Thank you.
But that's how you're wired. You're here to help.
Yep.
You're here to help. Appreciate it. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you, Steve.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.